Lawfare is now the standard operating procedure of the executive branch. Unfortunately, not too long ago, it was taboo to persecute and prosecute your political opponents. That was the things that communists did. Well, now we are doing it, and a new administration is taking over, and they're more than likely going to follow the standard that has been set by the Biden and Obama administrations. So here we go. Before we get into that, let's talk about rule of law. One of the characteristics, components, features of a democracy. There are many characteristics of a democracy. Some work, some don't. Some may not be the best: majority rule, representative government. But the one feature of a democracy that absolutely is paramount is rule of law. Rule number one: everyone must follow the rule. It is the rule that we are all equal, equality. There are many things we can argue about in democracy, some of the features that we may not like, but the one that we all will agree on, the one that makes our nation great and has made our nation better than others, is that we are all equal under the law. The law applies to all of us equally. Unfortunately, under the most recent administration, the law is not being applied equally among the people. There is not an equal application of the law. Some are allowed to be above the law, some are below the law. Some are prosecuted, others are given a free pass. Not fair, not equal. And if we don't have equality, if we don't have rule of law, then we don't have a democracy. We may still vote, but the fundamental, most basic, strongest tenet of a democracy is rule of law. We have to restore this. So we have to equally apply the law. So what are some of these unequal applications of the law? We'll start with Eric Holder, Democrat, Attorney General. Under his guidance, a decade ago with the Obama administration, his Department of Justice came up with a clever idea of, hey, let's get a bunch of guns, put some tracking devices on them, illegally sell them. When the cartels start using them, we'll track the guns and arrest the cartels. Well, they never arrest the cartels. And what actually happens is the guns are used to kill a bunch of people. So they sold a bunch of guns. Our government, our Department of Justice illegally sold guns to drug dealers, to cartels, and those guns were used to kill Americans and Mexicans. It was a disaster. He was subpoenaed. He had to go to court and discuss what he and the Department of Justice had illegally done, and he refused to turn over the files. He was held in contempt of Congress for refusing to turn over the files and reveal what he and his department had done. So he went to jail, right? Wrong. The Democratic administration at the time decided, no, this is not what we do. We don't put people in jail for these things. We don't put people in jail for refusing subpoena on political grounds, etc., etc. So, whatever. Fast forward to the future. Steve Bannon, after the January 6th issue, Congress investigating another situation, just like they were investigating Eric Holder. They want to investigate Steve Bannon and what he was doing, and he said, nah, I'm good. I'm not coming to Congress and testifying. I don't need to reveal anything. I had nothing to do with it. I refuse to testify. I refuse to speak, kind of like the Fifth Amendment. He was held in contempt of Congress, and he was thrown in jail for 6 months. Federal prison, the real deal prison, not some camp, not some vacation resort, not some hotel room like other classically punished people. Real deal. So how does that work? Holder, nah, you're good. Steve Bannon, straight to jail. What happens when we destroy the rule of law? What happens to our American government? What happens to the fabric of our society when laws and rules only apply to one group and not another? When some are above the law, this is what the Trump administration often refers to as a two-tiered justice system. Rules for thee, not for me. Let's continue it. Hillary Clinton illegally keeps files on her own server rather than the government server while she is Secretary of State, then deletes those files. Now, deleting those files may not necessarily have been illegal when she used bleach bit to destroy them and hammers to break her cell phones, although it looks quite suspicious. But it is illegal to use a private server instead of the government protected encrypted server. Was she jailed? No, she was not. The Republican administration under Donald Trump never prosecuted her. The Obama administration did not prosecute her either. Okay, so some people are allowed to break the law, some are not. Joe Biden runs for president, makes it clear on multiple occasions he will not pardon his son. He is running for president-elect me. He was well aware through the emails that we can track everything that had happened with his son for years and had lied about all of his son's activities for years. Regardless of his lies, he did say often he would not pardon his son, vote for him, etc. And he was praised by the media. He was considered a saint. And Trump was demonized. Trump would never do that. Trump would always pardon people. Trump would never be as sanctimonious, as good as Joe Biden. Well, nonetheless, he pardoned his son. And the media looked like idiots. Now, media aside, either way, big picture, whatever happened to rule of law, equal application of the law? His son broke the law, many laws, and not just the gun charges, but illegally dealing with foreign governments, of which then Joe Biden was connected to. These are serious major crimes that put our nation in a very serious situation, and he's completely let free. Whatever happened to rule of law? That we're all below or equal under the law. Some are allowed to get away with breaking the law, others are not. This is tearing at the fabric of our society. This is going to be decided and discussed in classrooms. This is hard to justify. And this is just the beginning. Because under the Trump administration, it's more likely that the rules have been set, a standing operating procedure has been set, and that the Republicans are going to also continue to engage and persecute and prosecute. It's going to get messy, it's going to get ugly. There will need to be conversations had and discussed in classrooms in a fair, objective way. We don't necessarily need to justify anyone's actions or what has happened, but to explain as such, evidence must be put forth. So far we've put forth some information. And just as your students are going to find out about what's going on, the American public is waking up to this unequal application of the law. The American public is realizing the two-tier justice system, the rules for thee but not for me. And they're becoming frustrated and upset. That is one of the main reasons, or at least a contributing factor to Donald Trump being elected. They see the inequality in society from the Biden and Obama administration, from the Democratic Party, and they chose to vote for the Republican Party, either A, for a fair application of the law, or B, revenge. Speaking of revenge, the media, the Democratic Party are terrified. They are about to reap what they've sown. They know what they have done. They know that they did not equally apply the law. And they know that the Trump administration will equally apply the law. If an equal application of the law means prosecuting your enemies, then the Trump administration is going to prosecute enemies. They're going to prosecute those that have broken the law. And they're not going to let them walk away. Steve Bannon didn't get to walk away. The Trump administration is coming. They're going to lock some people up. They're going to find some people. And these are going to be discussions that are going to have to happen in class. And people are going to wonder, is this fair? Is this unfair? Is this lawfare? Well, the best way to explain is to simply state the facts of each case and what has happened. And state the characteristics and principles of democracy, which are rule of law, which is equal application of the law. If you break the law, you go to jail, period, end of story. And then you use standing You use previous cases and examples to justify or explain what has happened and why it is happening and what will happen. In the end, it all comes down to rule of law and what we must protect as a nation. If we don't have a rule of law, if we don't have everyone equal under the law, then we have no law. And without law, we have no nation. We can argue about democracy, electoral college, one man, one vote, majority rule, all of these things, all of these imperfections with democracy. We can have rigorous debates, but we cannot have a debate over rule of law. This is a must. This cannot be questioned. This must exist. We must equally apply the law to everyone. And if we are going to have an equal application of the law, then anyone who has broken the law over the last 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, regardless of what administration you belong to, if you have broken the law, then you must be punished for breaking the law. We cannot have some above the law and others below the law. We can no longer stand for a two-tier justice system. We must restore the principle of the rule of law and restore the faith of the public in our government. We need a strong nation, and a strong nation is just not a strong economy or founding fathers or fancy documents written 200 years ago. At the core of a strong nation is the belief of the people in that nation, and that must be restored. And the only way to restore that is by showing, by example, that justice and equality will exist in this nation. And there will not be rules for thee and not for me. There will not be a two-tier justice system. Here we go. Buckle up, kids.